Greetings from the great state of Texas. In this video, I want to discuss scrapping settlements in Fallout 4 video game. Large-scale scrapping, it can take some time or be a time-consuming process. Why you'd want to scrap? Well, some people are into settlement building and you need to scrap the junk to get resources. And like most things, it has some limitations. I want to take a look at basic scrapping, what it is, how it works. Then I want to talk about ways to streamline and speed up the process in your game. Unfortunately, there are also some limitations to this, so I want to discuss those and ways of actually sidestepping them or getting around them. So get to it and onward. So before digging into the subject, some people might be asking why, because Fallout 4 is an ancient video game from quite a while ago, last decade. Well, Fallout 4, especially the modded versions of Fallout 4, are infinitely replayable, at least in my book they are. I mean, if you play it once or twice, you do the main plot line, and then you can actually do a playthrough and pretty much ignore the main plot line. It's what an open world game should be. You can run around and do the things you want. Yeah, with mods, you have all sorts of new adventures you can have, or at some point, a lot of people just want to try their hand at settlement building. So that's the point of this video here. If you've played through several times, you don't need to follow through on a lot of the Bethesda mechanics. Sometimes you just want to do stuff. So we're going to assume you're on a new playthrough and you don't really want to follow the main plot line. What you want to do is you want to engage in some settlement building, build yourself a network of settlements across the Boston Commonwealth. To do that, you're going to need resources, and to get resources, you've got two choices. You can either buy them from vendors, which means you have to set up some sort of business, or you can scrap stuff. One of the problems with scrapping stuff is it takes a lot of resources and it takes a while. For example, Sanctuary, the first settlement you're likely to run across, and the one we're going to use in this video, it could take a couple of hours to scrap everything in Sanctuary. And like I say, on a second or third playthrough, you may not want to waste this much time. So while there are some issues, there are quicker ways to accomplish this also. Another issue, again, most of these reside around restrictions put in place by Bethesda that a lot of people feel should never be there. There are certain things you can't scrap. For example, some of the houses in Sanctuary, the floors are a mess, but hey, you can build a fusion reactor. You should be able to take a broom and sweep out these rooms. Yeah, so there are some mods that let you scrap the stuff that's in these rooms, so that's something else we want to talk about. So, yeah, onward. Let's do it. Okay, before we get too far into this, I will mention this is from the PC perspective. The PC has the console. I think I played Fallout 4 on a PlayStation, and I don't recall there being a console, but then again, I wasn't looking for one. But just be advised, this is from the PC perspective. So let's take a look at Sanctuary first. This is the first settlement you're going to hit once you exit the vault, and if you look closely, you're going to find there's 4 collapsed houses, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dilapidated houses. That's not including your original home from the intro, which is also collapsed. And there's a ton of stuff around there. So this is a pretty good sized settlement. You can actually do quite a lot with it. It's just getting there, and that's what we want to talk about. So we can look around and say, yeah, what a mess. Let's clean some of this up, okay? We want to go ahead and start scrapping stuff. Here's one of these collapsed houses. We can actually totally scrap these in the normal game. You'll notice the highlighted color when you're in workbench mode. On a PC, this is long pressing V or going to the workbench and executing it from the menu there. Not really sure on the consoles what you need to press. But we click on it, we can scrap it, you get a list of the resources you'll get from it, and it's gone. Yeah, that was easy, right? Got a lot of resources quickly. Well, okay, here's a log laying there. We can go ahead and scrap that. Another one, scrap that. And onward, more scrapping. Lots of stuff to scrap. You'll notice things we scrap are highlighted. Some things will be highlighted in a different color. These are things you could actually store in workbench mode and use later. I usually recommend scrapping everything because you get experience for building stuff if you want to increase your level. Trees, fences, cars, furniture, you can scrap it all. And as I said, this could take a couple of hours in many cases to scrap stuff, and you find some stuff is totally unscrappable. But wait, let's back up. There should be a better way. And we're going to go through a shortcut, but this shortcut does have some disadvantages you need to be aware of. So back to the start. Let's use the tilde key that's in the upper left of your keyboard to open the console. Well, before we do that, what I'd really like to be able to do is not scrap my workbenches, but store them, and you can't do that until you get Local Leader 2, which allows you to build them, and then at that point you can store them instead of scrapping them. But yeah, at this point starting out, you can't do that. So I'll be pointing out something you can do to get around this with this particular method that, again, many people could consider this to be a cheat. So we'll open the console, like I say, tilde, upper left-hand side of your keyboard, and we're going to type the word scrap all. And hit enter, and voila! Every piece of loose junk you could either scrap or store is gone. Well, it's not really gone. We come over here and check the workbench. It's all in the workbench here. We've got lots of resources now to build with. However, you will notice looking around that all your workbenches were scrapped with everything else. Well, technically this is your workbench and they were your crafting stations. Your armor crafting station, your weapon crafting station, your chemistry station, and your cooking station. All gone. Which is a weakness of this method. Like I say, if you're Local Leader 2, you can just rebuild them, but if you're not, you're just starting out, yeah, they're gone. And you need those to modify weapons and armor and cook stuff and make chems, all sorts of things you need those for. So if you see here, while we're checking out the settlement, how much cleaner it looks, I've listed some additional console commands you can use to recreate these items and replace them in your settlement because, yeah, they shouldn't have been scrapped. You should have been able to store them, but you couldn't. Hey, like I say, Bethesda does some things that I disagree with or just find annoying, and while a lot of people consider this cheating, I don't. I just consider it a way to get around the limitations Bethesda places on things. Okay, the next thing we want to discuss is there is another shortcoming with this method besides what happened with your workbenches, or your crafting benches. Okay? So, first we're going to build some stuff down here at the this end of the settlement. I'm going to throw up a couple towers, hook them together with some wire. And then we're going to, it's all, we got our towers, we got our wire. Now we're going to head down the road to the Red Rocket, which, if you've played Sanctuary, you know is another settlement, but it's pretty darn close to Sanctuary. We're going to avoid dog meat here. On our way down, and then we're going to head straight to the workbench, and we're going to go into the console mode, and we're going to scrap all. And again, this removes all the junk, including the crafting stations from Red Rocket. Now we're going to turn around and we're going to run back up to Sanctuary. And you'll notice when we get back to Sanctuary that we no longer have any wires connecting all our towers together. They seem to have vanished. And if we try to connect wires, we can't. The actual wires are still there. They're sort of invisible, and we can't do anything with them anymore. The moral here, if your settlements are really close together, do a scrap all in both places before you start building. If you do that, you can avoid this particular bug. And wires are the most obvious one. There's a few other items in there that you might find difficult. But like I say, just settlements are close together, scrap all in both of them before you start building either one of them. And you can avoid this issue altogether. Okay, let's take a moment to jump back out to the main menu. What I want to do here is I want to go into mods and mod order. I've got a mod loaded called Scrap All. There's several different mods of this type available, and I'm going to activate it so it's available. And then we're going to restart our game. If you have no mods, you're going to get a warning about mods being added. Otherwise, you'll just go back into your game with this mod active. Now, what this mod and several similar mods do is mark some things as scrappable that were not originally scrappable. Let's do a quick example here, like the Sanctuary sign. It's covered in this plant life. Well, now we can go into workbench mode and we can scrap that. And let's get rid of this plant in front of it. And isn't that sign much better now coming in? But you'll notice the sign's highlighted, so be careful. You can scrap it too. It's always a good idea to do a quick save before you start scrapping with Scrap All active, in case you delete something you really didn't want to delete, remove something you really didn't want to remove. As I say, we'll look around and you'll notice a lot more things are available to be scrapped. And you do get resources for them, so helps with your settlement building. In fact, dilapidated houses you really couldn't touch, yeah, guess what? They're scrappable too. Now, for my example here, we've got this junk on the floor in a room. Like I say, you can build a fusion reactor, but you can't sweep out a room. Well, no more. With Scrap All installed, yeah, we can remove some of this junk on the floor. And there, a much cleaner, nicer looking room for us to use. Let's go ahead and get rid of these towel racks too. We can do those are scrappable. And as I said, you can see the whole house is scrappable. If you do that, you'll see some other stuff floating around in the air there. You'll have to go through and get rid of. The roof's still there, you can scrap that though. Now, one thing I want to demonstrate with this mod, which could be an issue, if you'd use the console and the Scrap All command, because so much stuff is scrappable, you can literally scrap the whole settlement. or workbenches left. There's Cogsworth over there. But everything else is gone. This is what you call really clean if you want to do a clean start in Sanctuary. Again, the downside is we don't have roads in our construction kits. There are ways around that, but that is a downside. You can say there's Cogsworth, and you'll notice something over here. I tell you some objects are non-scrappable. We got this desk sitting over here that for some reason you just couldn't get rid of, but now you're at almost a total clean start. There are ways to get rid of the desk. I may cover that in another video, but again, total clean start for Sanctuary. If you want to start from ground zero, this allows you to do that as well. Okay. All right, so there we have it. Again, some people will call this cheating because you're using the console, because you're installing mods. It's, as I say in my book, I divide using a mods and console into two different categories. One of them is getting around limitations placed on the game by Bethesda, and then the other one is actually cheating. So in this case, I don't consider this cheating. I consider this getting around limitations. But again, people have different opinions on what that is. But so the point again of this video is if you're playing through the game again and you want to focus on settlement building and you don't want to take hours scrapping stuff, we can get that done really quickly. You can scrap all sorts of stuff with a mod, and then you can build to your heart's content and whatever you want to create, whatever strikes your fancy. So that's the point, that's the purpose, and that's what we covered. Again, like this video if you'd like it, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you next time. I might be in the state of Washington next time. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, onward.